Greetings and welcome back to the lab. I have really got a mess here because I'm doing a lot of different things trying to get ready for Halloween, but I wanted to talk to you about the skull project. And this is one of the two skulls that I painted. This one's got like a paint reaction on it of some sort, but I tried making a cap and there was a whole plan with a cap for this. But then I put the cap on. And if you look at it from profile view, you can see it just doesn't quite work. It doesn't make sense. Even if you consider that the flesh is dissolved off of the skull, the hat sitting here is just in the wrong position. So I made a little bit of a change. This one, I had done it and I just thought, okay, I'll do a hat and I'll center another cylinder in there so I can fit it on. But that didn't quite work. So what I ended up doing, and I wanted to pop off the raft here. You can see this is another hat. This is the toughest raft I've had to remove. It's fighting me a little bit. We'll get there. That sounded promising. As long as the whole thing doesn't fall apart. Halloween is approaching. This is off center, and it has a couple of little marks on here, little indents. I'll explain both, but I want to see if offsetting it makes the positioning about right. So my thinking was it would sit something like this, which I think that looks a little bit more like a hat, or in this case, it's supposed to be a propeller beanie. So this is that part of it. And the marks that I made, wow, it fits surprisingly easily on here. I'm really quite happy with that. Okay, it's going to be tilted forward a little bit, but I think that's acceptable. I think because this is the view that everybody's going to get. And actually, now that I look at it, it's not completely centered right. So be more like that. In fact, actually, now that I look at it, I can judge that by those little indents. I can decide to move that indent centered on the skull. And I think, yeah, I think that's reasonably well centered, but now it's set back more, which is what I wanted to do. So this will go to some other purpose. I'm not sure what. This raft is really nice, round raft. I could probably do just a little bit of sanding on it. And I was thinking I use that hammered paint and paint that, and I could have a nice coaster for a drink or something like that. If I print more things with circles, who knows? Anyway, let me put that aside. So that is the idea there. Those markings that I referred to. There should be 6 of them total going around. So if you think about it, that's 60 degrees per. If the whole thing is 360 degrees, that's 60 degrees per mark. And my thinking was that I could get some tape. Let's see if I can find the tape. Yep. And I can mask this off, but I can use those marks for reference. So let's say I grab a big piece of painter's tape and I can run it from one of these marks. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I can run it from one of these marks up and over. Yeah, great. Now the tape just settled on itself, but I just want to demonstrate my thinking. And that hole on the top is in the middle. It's dead center. So if I run this across, I should be pretty close to that other marking. And I can do that and mask it off and then be able to, I can do another section here because I got 2 more of these marks. And then I can use that to be able to paint this to have alternating colors. And my thinking is I'm going to use the same jack-o'-lantern orange that I have for the jack-o'-lanterns. Let me show you one of those. That's one of my jack-o'-lantern ornaments that actually lights up, and that's another video. I'll put a link to that up here if I've released that one before this one. But I'm thinking instead of the sort of traditional colors that you'd get on a propeller beanie, I wanted to have the orange and black. Those are kind of traditional Halloween colors. So that's what I'm going to do. Alternating colors. And on the top, I've got this extra little ridge So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that top part black, and then there will be a pole sticking through here, actually an acrylic rod. I have to drill it at a specific diameter to match the rod, but I also have the propeller, which I have to sand down, and I'll probably paint the propeller orange. So this will be black here. The propeller will be orange, or it could be orange on one side, black on the other. And if I do it right, it might actually rotate in the wind while I have all of this on display. But that is the second part of the skull project. I still need to get to actually painting the skulls, and then it'll make more sense to paint this and put it on top. Although I'm thinking, while I've got certain paints out and ready to go for some projects, it makes sense to get other ones done. That's why I wanted to do this. Kind of out of order, but I'll try to release the videos in order. So hopefully all of that makes sense. But this is the big project for Halloween, to get a display out, and trying desperately to get it done before Halloween. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, check out the playlist that I will have for all the Halloween stuff. That'll be on the end of the video. Well, we're back. It's a few days later. I forget exactly how long. This has been a long project, but time to continue with the skull. And we're back to Yoric with his missing front teeth. And it's time to electrify Yoric, and then we'll deal with the beanie. We'll get that up and running. So the electrification, if you check out the Evil Gray Kitten video, that is this cute little guy. He's got his eyes now, and he flickers, which works nicely. I've got my trigger ready to go, which that's a whole other video. So I'll put the Evil Gray Kitten here, and in a moment I'll put the trigger up here, and it's time to do this. So the key to doing this is to drill a couple of holes, a couple of 5mm holes, and I think that's going to be easier on Yoric here. The hard part is going to be reaching my fingers in there and trying to stick the LEDs through, but I may have a bonus here. I've got these panel mounts for the LEDs, the same size LEDs, and I think I might be able to fit it in that hole there. If I can do that, then what I can do is push the wires through first, then push the LED in like that. These are black. They're going to match the eye cavity. I think that's going to work pretty nicely. So what I need to do is drill those holes out. In order to do that, I got to switch my electricity from the soldering iron back to the drill. And here we go with the drill with a 5mm bit. I want to see how well this is going to work. On the kitten, I had to be a little bit more careful, and I stepped it up, but I think I can go straight to 5 here. I hope this works. There's one. Okay, now, since I actually am going to need a little bit more than 5mm, I'm just going to kind of rotate this around a bit and see if I can make that work. Don't want to mess up the whole thing, but let's see. I don't want to push it all the way in because then it'll be hard to get back out. Let's just see if we're close. Yeah, so each one of these objects in the display, actors in the display, is going to require a little bit different way of electrifying them. And I'm going to keep routing this out a little bit. Now that I think of it, somewhere I've got a step bit. But the problem with that is it's probably going to cut too much out of that cavity. I need to be careful about that. So I'm going to try again. I'll be back after I got it sized right. Okay, I think I finally got it, and I ended up scratching it and revealing a little bit of the layer down below that I painted over. This was originally a very shiny skull, but you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. And these are the panel mounts that I mentioned. It works beautifully in the, well, I guess it would be his right eye, but in the left eye, it's a little bit on the loose side. But I'm not going to worry about that because I got to stick an LED in there, and that should tighten it up a little bit. So I'm hoping that's good enough. The beauty of that is now what I can do is pull out some wire and get some good old red and black wire and a couple of red LEDs, and I'm going to start assembling to extend the LEDs outside of the skull. It's going to come out the top here. So I can then put it here and work on it and add a resistor to it and a connector and everything that I need. Ooh, something just occurred to me. I planned for a lot of things, but what I didn't plan for was how to get the wires out of here. And if this is going to be sitting on the ground, I don't want the wires coming out the top. So I'm probably going to have to drill a hole in the back here or in the bottom and somehow feed the wires through there once everything is assembled. That's going to make this a little bit more interesting. But I think, keeping that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and do what I said. I'm going to put the red LEDs in those panel mounts and get them in here, and then get the wires in and be able to fish the wires back out of here so that I can work on them to extend them. I need a resistor, and again, if you look at the evil gray kitten up in the corner here, that has some explanation as to why I chose the value I did. But the bottom line is I've decided on a 220 ohm resistor for 2 flickering LEDs because my voltage source here with the trigger is about 3 volts, and I'm dropping, I forget exactly how much, but it gave me the right sort of balance of how bright it is. I don't want it to be too bright and like try and light up a whole area with it, but I want it to be noticeable. So that was what I settled on, was about 220 was about what I needed. So I'm going to start pulling this wire out. I'm going to get enough of it to be able to come out and then put everything together. And then I'll come back once I got enough assembled that I can test it against the trigger, and we'll go from there. I'll be right back. All right, well, this took some effort, and I had to make a Y adapter to go out of here into these two because the plan was to get them into these, but then I realized once I get them into these holes here, and then they're coming out, the problem is if I pull too much, they end up popping right back out of the panel mounts. So I figured it would be better to just have more extensions ready to go so that doesn't get disturbed too much. I still need to drill a hole in the bottom, but this is really proof of concept that I can have the LED in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up. It's probably a long enough video already. If you want the satisfaction of seeing it, stay tuned for the next episode where we actually put it all together. I think, oh, no, actually, I still got to do the beanie. So I'll get it together. I'll come back and we'll put together the beanie cap. So that's a little bit cleaner now, and I think I'm set up. Let's work on the beanie. This is, if you can see, it's a little bit offset, so it'll actually fit properly on Yoric's head. And this is the pin vise I was talking about earlier. I'm not sure if it was this video or another. And these are those small drill bits. And the object here is I want to fit this 2mm acrylic rod into the hole on top here. Now I did have it print with a little bit of a hole, knowing that I was going to have to try and drill it out. And that looks like that's actually 2.0 or 2.2. You know what? Let's go size down. And pull that one out. We'll put it in the pin vise. Tighten it up. That doesn't look quite... Is that right? Yeah, that's about right. Now, all I want to do is just... It's really hard to see the hole on camera, but trust me, it's there. I'm trying to line up so I can drill through with this. And I'm through. Now I'm going to back out. But this is just to clear that hole, and I don't want to go too far because then the rod will not go through. Now, I think that's a 1.8 and this is a 2.0, so the rod should not go through, and it does not. So, good. I'm on the right track. I'm off to a good start. What was I trying to say there? Put your answers down below. Is it really down below? Depends on what you're watching this on, right? Yeah, I'm poking holes in... Anyway. Yeah, I just realized, yeah, I am poking holes. Actually, I'm reaming holes, but that's another... So now I'm going to go up, what I hope is the 2.0, not the 2.2. Because I don't have the time to do this all over again. I'm right up on Halloween here, trying to get the decorations finished. And now, okay, we have gone through. Let's hope that was a 2.0. And it's a little on the loose side, but that's okay. Now what I want to do, I painted this intentionally on the rod, and actually it is slightly melted at both the top and underneath, which trapped it so it wouldn't go sliding down while it was drying. So I'm going to cut off the very top. I should be able to split this back out now. Should be able to, there we go. We're done with that. Now let's put this through. I gotta wonder if that's a 2.2 instead of a 2.0. Okay. Now I got 2.0. I should probably match up with this. Yep. We're good there. Now, I guess the key is, let's melt this. All right, there's been a bit of confusion. My apologies for that. I think these might be slightly mixed up in the case here, and they're very small bits with very little tolerance or whatever. So anyway, I've now taken this and melted the bottom of it. I'm going to stick it through. If I can find the hole. There is some method to my madness here. There we go. All right, that goes through. Now I want this to stand up reasonably straight. I'm not 100% sure about that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and hold it like this and melt it into the hat. Not sure about the smoke there. It's not perfect, but it's there. Now we can put the propeller on top. Realistically, if this whole thing went down, I wouldn't mind that much either. Now I want this to be up a little bit. So I'm going to do it like that. Yeah, about that much. And then I can put just a real quick kind of note on the rod. That'll keep this from dropping too far down. We'll still be able to spin freely. And then I can put another one above it to keep it from flying away. And leave it a little bit of room to move. Then we can just cut it off. And if I've done that right, this won't come off. Oh, it came off. Okay. Now that I think of it, I'm going to do the same thing I did on the bottom. Just melt the very top of it. Not the most pleasant smell, but now that works. Now we can give Yoric his beanie. I'm going to line it up so that the offset is towards the front. And there we go. Yoric with a beanie. So I still got to put the eyes in and get all the wiring. I did drill a hole off camera to get a place to be able to retrieve the wires from. But let me put all that together. Well, let me get everything ready and we'll put it all together. Okay, we've got the electronics. The idea was going to be that I was going to put these around here so I can stick them in. Now, it occurs to me that these are sticking out a little bit. They're a little too loose. And I think the solution is going to be to pack it out with more electrical tape. This is not the red-green show, but if it was for electronics, maybe. That was a fun show. But I'm going to add just a couple of layers of tape around it so it's a little harder to stick in, and hopefully that'll keep it from falling out. And that way I can do this. Now I've got to figure out how to retrieve it. Hang on, I'll get myself a pair of tweezers, see if I can work that out. When I bought these dental picks, I thought they were metal. They turned out to be plastic, but they may be just the thing I need to go fishing. There we go. That's one. And let's see if we can't wedge it in there. A little bit of a tight fit. I maybe could have gone with one less round of tape. That should be pretty good right there. I am not going to get too crazy about it, but I got this through. That's the really good news on that one. So let's see if we can do the same with the other, but maybe not quite so much. Got that. We got that. Already have something behind it. We're going to be recessed a bit more than I anticipated. Hang on, let's see if we can't get that a little bit tighter. The panel mount is not fitting the way I anticipated. That in itself might be enough to hold it in. Let's find out. I'll stick that in there. Do a fishing again. Let's push a little more of it in there. I caught something. All right. I think they just paid for themselves. Now, if this works right, the LED won't fall out. That should be good enough. It's a little bit uneven, but what skeleton is totally even? So now we got that. With the wires coming out the bottom, which is what I wanted. Let's get our Y adapter here. That allows me to put the two LEDs onto one circuit. And then I got to try and plug these itty-bitty little connectors together. I have to go shopping for more connectors because bigger connectors would have been nice. I'm not carrying that much current. Let's just see. Now we got that. We need something to light Yoric up. So I'm going to go get the trigger. Okay, you remember the evil gray kitten? That video should have come out first. And he's flickering. And here's the trigger. I'm going to disconnect the kitten. And connect Yoric. Wait a minute. Negative on top. Don't want to get it backwards. The connectors are actually keyed, but there's never any guarantee that things will work the way you want. And I've got, oh, this is unfortunate. These are not lining up just right. And it looks like the LED is popped out of this one. So I'm going to have to redo that. But it does work. I'm just going to have to fiddle with it to get it just right. There, it looks like it's now shut itself off. And that turns it back on. The other problem I have, and this will have to be part of the other video, is right now, the trigger's not exactly working the way it should be. I think it should be able to pick up from further away. But right now I have to get, sorry, I'm right off stream doing that. You should be able to pick it up from much further away, but I have to get fairly close to trigger it. So I'm going to let it run for a second here, demonstrate the issue, and I'll go fix it off camera and summarize. I'll be back when I get Yoric all set to go. So let me stop here, figure some things out, and then I'll come back with somehow a summary for both of them. And I think we finally got Yoric up and running. His left eye just kept going out on me. And I finally figured out part of what it was the LED, where the connection was, the LED was shorting out itself. So whenever that went out, it would also kind of take out the whole system. So now you can see I've got the trigger and it's turned off, and I'm further across the room and I can trigger it from here. So the problem there ultimately was that this sensor here had the lens was still in, but the sensor itself had pushed out. So it was really just picking up some kind of radiant heat or something. I don't know what, but now we got Yoric running. Put his hat on. And I got to go make some extensions so I can put all this out in the garden. But there's Yoric with his beanie cap, which will, of course, stop moving as soon as I put him down. But that's it for this video. Next up, I think I got the trigger, I got the kitten, I got Yoric. I think I got just about everything. Now it's just the installation. So off I go. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. There will be more.